Hi girl, how you doing? How are you? You ready to come on straight on? Yeah, we might as well start doing it. Hello. Oti, how you doing? Nice to see. Hey
Hi,
girl.
Aunty T.
How are you?
I'm good, thank you. I'm good.
Good. I went in front of your house today. I thought I would wave at you before now. I'm going to wait for your connection to come back on. Hello, Winston. How you doing? Hello, everyone. I'm going to bring Ife back on. How you doing? How you doing, everyone? Good. Yomi, hi. How you doing? Nice to see you. Nice to see you, everyone. Thanks for coming on. I'm just going to try and bring Ife back on. It's nice to see everyone. Can you imagine? It's the seventh one.
Oh, sorry, I don't know what happened.
These connections, don't worry. We're going to do this thing today.
Yes,
You're looking good. How
thank
have you
you. You too.
been? You've been well?
Yeah, I've been good. How are you,
Good.
Auntie?
I'm very well and
That's
very well. Thanks. I'm just going to say hi to a couple of people joining. Hi, Deborah, Yemi. Everyone, thanks so much for coming and joining us. We're in for another interesting time. Can you believe this is the seventh episode? I remember the first one with Abby. Look at my sister, Laide. How are you doing? Nice to see you, Laide. I've got two Mrs. Williams on there now. I remember the first one with Abby in January, and it just seems like, my gosh, then it was like, are we really going, is this going to happen? And now we're doing the seventh one. So I'm just going to give a quick shout out to all those who have been on Young and Strong since January. I've had Abby, can you imagine? I've had Tony, I've had Ira, Ore, Shanova, Dami. So my goodness. Hi, Blessing. How are you doing? And everyone has just been phenomenal. And I know that, you are in good company, Ife. I have no doubt that today is going to be a good day as well. And everyone it's just been, just amazing. The stuff you guys talk about is just phenomenal. Every time I finish, I'm like, my goodness, you young people are amazing. Just to give everybody a brief, background of what Young and Strong is about. It's a vision God put in my heart. It comes from the scripture in 1 John 2:14b, which says, I speak to you, young people, because you are strong, and the word of God abides in you, and you've overcome the evil one. So I believe very much in you guys. I love you guys. I believe in what God has put on the inside of you. So I always tell people, when we come on Young and Strong, I'm not here to say anything. I'm here to listen to you talk. I'm here for you to answer my questions and just tell everyone, what it feels like to be young at this time. That's what this is about. So it's not about Aunty T coming to, I'm not going to say much. This is about you. So if let's just get right to it. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Um, Hi everyone. My name's Ife. I'm 19. I grew up in the church. I know Auntie T from church as well. She lives near to me. Like, I feel like Auntie T has been a mentor, and I thank you, Auntie T, for creating this platform, because young people don't really have a platform where we can speak to the older generation. We just speak amongst ourselves. So like, this is a very, very great opportunity for young people to express themselves. And like, guys, you can express yourselves in the comments as well. It's not just me, it's us together in this.
Yes, so yes. Oh, nice. Joanna, hi, long time. Nice to see Joanna joining us. Yes, it is your people's platform. It's just got my name on it, so I can take some credit. All right, so that's Ife talking to us today. So Ife, the first question is, yes, so like they always call us the older generation. And I remember when I remember when Ore came, Ore said, no, we're not different generations. We're all one generation in different stages of life. So, some have called me the I remember Maoli called me the elderly. Every time he comes over, I tell him, you remember he called me, I'm not the elderly, I'm just a little older. So, well, we'll take it, we'll take it. So if I tell me, what is it like to be young in these times? When we talk about young people and the kind of challenges you guys go through, what does it feel like to be young during these times?
I feel like the first word that pops up to me is pressure. So much pressure from ourselves, from people around us, from image, like being this certain image, and you have the social media life and you have your real life. And I feel like the word that pops up to me is pressure. Like everyone is just pressured from somewhere, whether it's internally, externally, whether it's both. I feel like young people are so pressured, but positively, when I think of a young person, like I don't just think strong, I think determined, because I feel
Right.
like more and more people are trying to like make money quicker, are trying to figure out their future quicker. But even at that, we can get pressure if we don't have the right people around us to kind of direct us. But I feel like it can be a positive and a negative at the same time. So those are the kind of things I think about when I think about young people.
Young people. So you've said social media, you've said making money. For example, let's say for young women, let's bring it home a little bit. Can you give me kind of some examples of the kind of actual pressures? Hi, Supernova. That's Antinova. Hi, what kind of, particular things would actually create those kind of pressures? Can you give me a couple of actual
So
examples?
okay, so you go on social media, you have all these people with perfect bodies, or you have, like, for women, you have a lot of people with body dysphoria, like they don't know, like you have a lot of people being fat shamed because they're too big or they're overweight. Like you go on social media, you see what you want to be, because that's how you think these people live their lives, and you see all these people with flashy cars. All of these things are just pressure. So like you're like, oh, I don't want to fail in this life, I need to grind, I need to work hard, I need to find a job, I need to do this. Like some people I know would have stopped education because they just want to go straight into making money, like
Wow.
because of what we see on social media. And like at the age of 25 you should have your life together. Oh my gosh, I'm 20 now, what am I gonna do? Like I feel like social media is just such a facade that we think that these are the type of things that people are actually doing, but they're not. So I feel like
Yeah.
social media is one of the big pressures that we have as young people. And like I've seen a lot of people, like I know some people might know that some people have been like, some celebrities have been like, oh, social media is so toxic, I'm going off social media. But all these people make money from social media. Some people have literally started to make money and like have a lifestyle on social media, and the minute they stop, it's like that's the money stopping. So people can't just stop anymore. People can't just, and you're bored in lockdown, you want to go on social media. It's like you can't help yourself sometimes. And it's just like social media is what everyone's trying to be like.
Be
So I feel
like
like that's the main pressure.
main thing. But even when social media creates these things, do you have pressure among yourselves as well? Do you have, because we can always say, yeah, if you go on social media, but let's say I don't even go on social media. Well, not me, but what if people don't go on social media? But do you have pressures from each other
Yeah,
as well?
okay.
Everybody trying to be something.
So I'm just going to give an example. This is just an example. It's not happened
Okay.
before, it's just an example. But let's say I go to a party, I see my friends, they're wearing the latest whatever. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, I didn't even know there was something that was the latest thing. Oh, it was on socials. Like, why didn't you see it? Like, oh, let me show you. Like, you can't avoid social media. You can't. And it's like, I know a lot of people who like go off it for a while, but they come back because like online, we do online stuff now in school. Everything's online. Everything's on social media. Like, I think it's hard to avoid. So
Okay.
even when you try to, it's really, really hard to, if that makes sense.
I see. You're on there all the time, so you can kind of switch from school to Instagram. And forgive me, I had to do this on Instagram. There was no other platform. So maybe I'm one of those on social media, and it's always there. It's in your face. It's where everybody goes. If you're supposed to like know what the in things are like, that's where you go.
Get it on social media, yeah.
You go on social media. So how do you think you how do young people deal with this kind of challenges? Because you've got all this pressure coming, maybe from friends, from social media. How do you think people deal with this kind of challenges?
I feel like people don't deal with it. That's the issue. And I feel like social media is worldwide. Like you can't stop the bullying, or like the people in charge of the platforms are not stopping the bullying. I feel like it's a you thing. But we don't like, yes, we talk to each other, we say the problems, but we don't ever talk about the solutions. Like, I know to my friends, we're always talking about, like, this person has this body, or this person is always doing this, or this person is doing that. But we don't ever say, like, what can we do to change that, about how we feel? Like, how can we change our feed, or how can we do this, or how can we take the negatives away? Like, every time you come on social media, it's just someone fighting somebody else, or this or this or that, and it's just so much negative. But it's so interesting, like, who's fighting who now, and who's doing it. But like, I feel like when I do talk to my friend, like me, let me talk to myself personally. When I do talk to my
Let's
friend,
talk about it.
I feel like we just point out all the issues with it, but we never actually say, what can I do to, like, stop? What can I do to, like, and we always have that temporary fix where it's like, oh, 6 months I'm not on social media, then we come back. I don't feel like it's done anything completely. Like,
So you guys talk about it, but you don't solve it. And even when you know that you've picked up something off social media and it's an issue, so people don't deal with it, like all the body shaming and all the bullying. Where do young people go for help? I mean, I can see all my young people on there. Where do you guys go when this kind of stuff happens? You're talking about the fact that you talk to each other, but where do you find the solution and the help, and who do you guys talk to apart from yourselves?
I feel like there's so many places you can call, like there's so many helplines and stuff. But me personally, I've never been to those places. I've never called up, or I've never said that I'm really struggling with the fact that people live a false life and this is what's affecting me, or this. I feel like, and I wouldn't, like, I don't talk to my parents about it, because I just feel like, oh, do they even go on social media? Do they just be like, don't get pressure. It's not like, do you know what I mean? I feel like it's like, I don't know who, like, I don't know. And sometimes I feel like, let me talk for myself. Sometimes I feel like I enjoy it too much for me to even find a solution. But I know that it's detrimental. So I feel like, because when sometimes you really, really need help, you will look for it when you really hit that button. But sometimes, like, we're too involved in who's beefing who, or who's fighting who, or who's or this, or all the negatives, that we don't even really want to look for help. So when it gets too much, we take the temporary fix, 6 months off, then come back and we're like, oh, I'm ready again to, like, see who. Do you know what I mean? So
Right. So, but why don't you talk to parents? Why do you think we don't know?
We just think, we just think that, oh, like, I don't know, we just think, I don't think it's because, like, because I know my parents are 100% approachable. I thank God for that, because I can always tell them anything. But if I tell my parents everything, what do I tell my friends? Like, it's just like, what would I just
Oh, come on.
No, it's not like if I tell my parents everything. I feel like my mom is like, oh, when I need help, it's like not to complain and not to, like, oh, mom, like, social media is being annoying. Like, I don't know, just not kind
You
of
think you're just
conversation.
gonna say switch it off? Don't
Yeah,
go
like, don't
there.
go on it. Like, it's just like, I don't know. Because it seems like that's the fix. Like, if you have an issue with it, just stay away from it. But I feel like a lot of people are more aware that social media does have a hold on a lot of people. So they are trying to, and like I said, celebrities and some people are saying social media is a bullying site. It's not right. And they're saying, let's stop this and let's actually try and find a fix. And I do feel like the platform has a responsibility to also solve some of the issues that go on social media. Like,
Yeah, but even apart from the issues on social media, because I know that there's a lot of issues on social media, but what about among your peers? Is there peer pressure that's not coming from social media?
yes, there
Like
is,
when
like,
you guys relate to each other, is there pressure coming from friends? I know we talked earlier about people saying, you need to know this and all that, but even amongst yourselves, because do you guys create pressure for each other?
100%. Like, I actually wanted to talk
Oh
about
dear.
this, but like in a perspective where we're talking about Black people, majority, like because
Fine, talk.
because because I feel like when it comes to like the Black community and the Christian community, like we have our own extra pressure on top of everything. Like, oh, you have to do extremely, you can't just be average, you have to be top in
Mm.
academics. You can't just go to university and get 1 mark, you have to get all the marks. You can't, you know, it's kind of like all of that pressure, and it's like, oh, what's your cousin getting, or did you see what that guy got? And I feel like all of those are pressure on its own. But when it comes to like us pressuring ourselves, like what it means to be a man, like for some certain guys it's like, oh, like masculinity is just wrong, and it's just like in things you do rather than who you really are. And I feel like in females, like it's like also trying to be accepted, because I know being a dark-skinned woman is not easy. So it's like not just being accepted by your community, but being accepted by the people in school. Like going to a predominantly white school as well, it's not easy, and it's all of these extra pressures of like, how can you fit in and how can you do that? So I genuinely feel like we don't talk about it enough, about how much Black people face, not just from the pressure of like the home or like the church or like just being Black, but like being in a predominantly white school or being in a predominantly white area.
Is that something that you've experienced personally?
100%.
Oh, what was it like? Do you want to just give me a little bit of a hint what that was like?
Mine was double, because so I went to an all boys school, and all boys school, I mean like it was predominantly boys from GCSE, but I went to A levels, so
Okay.
we were only like a handful of girls basically, and then I
Okay.
was now Black in a predominantly white school, and I genuinely feel like it was a lot of pressure to be like, oh, who's gonna call out the racist ones? Like I remember this whole situation where someone had said the N-word in a classroom, and there were Black people in the classroom, Black boys. But because I'm always the one to say, like, when you're around me, you don't do nothing racist, I'm going to call you out on it. And I'm going to make you very uncomfortable because you're making me uncomfortable. So the
Right.
Black boys came to me. I said, did you know what this person said? What are you going to do about it? And it was just like, you know, if I don't even have another Black person to say, you're like, are you not Black? Can't you say, like, don't say that, or like, that's wrong? And like, but like, they came to me, and it was like, and I was just like, wow, like if I don't even have the support of like another Black person, it's like, what am I fighting for? So like that's genuinely something I have experienced. And then now being in a boys' school, like learning how boys think, and you're like, wow, like really, like, and I have brothers, and I thought I knew, but I did not know. So like I did not know at all. But
No,
it's
right.
interesting to see how when you really leave home, or like when you're really like in a different environment, you really learn so much. And that's why I'm always telling people, be open-minded, because you think you know everything, but like everybody around you will tell you you don't know anything, because that is something I learned from being in a predominantly white school and predominantly boys school. Like
Wow.
so many
And
things.
Nova was just asking, she said, is it that you feel like you're expected to fit in and then stand out at the same time?
Thank you, Antonio, because that is spot on. That is spot on. It's like you're not meant to do. It's like when it suits them, like, oh, you're meant to stand out now. This is when you're meant to call racism out, by the way, or like, oh, but this is when you should keep quiet. Like, we don't want to hear about feminism. It's okay. It's okay. Like, you know,
All right.
it's like it's just what they want from you. And it's like when
Mm.
you're doing too much, they will let you know you're doing too much. But when it's like just on their own accord. Like, it's not about, honestly, like Aunty Nova put it perfectly, to be honest.
Fitting but stand out at fitting but stand out at the same time.
Yeah.
So if I ask, I mean, how do you then deal with these kind of things? Because I keep coming back to that, because I recall I was having the conversation, one of the conversations I had on this, on Young and Strong, somebody said, young people, when you go through these things, you do two things. You either talk to your peers or you internalize. You don't talk about it. Is that true?
Yeah, so like obviously because I went to predominantly, like most of my friends, like yes, I did have Black friends, but we'd never really talk about it. Like we'll comment on it, but we'd never like talk about it and find solutions. So it's something that you just keep going with it, because it's like, oh, this is just my life. Like this is just how things are, and there's not really much you can do, because it takes a lot of energy to go into school every day and be like, I have to call this out. I have to call this out. It's like so much energy and so much you know, and like everyone, it's like to the moment that if someone says something inappropriate, they'll all look at you like, what's she gonna do? And that was too much pressure on me. So it was just like, I don't even want to say anything anymore, because it's like, now everyone's like, can't you say something? Like, why do you have to look for me to say something? So I genuinely feel like I internalized, because I was like, I just came to the conclusion that this is my life and this is just how things are until I move on from this phase of my life. So I feel like a lot of us do that because we're like, oh, it's only temporary, or like, if not, I'll just deal with it. Because if we talk to our friends, we don't really find solutions. We just complain. I find that I complain to my friends and we just complain. And it's like a weight lifted off, that, oh, this person feels the same as I do, but it doesn't really solve the issue.
Solve it. It doesn't, does it? Because that's what I'm getting. It doesn't solve it. So where can we come in? Because that's one thing I would love to ask. What can we do? Well, you chose to call us the generation in that other stage. How can we help? What can we say? What can we do? Because I'm not a fan of internalizing. I'm interested in us as parents, as counselors, as older. How can we get across and let you guys know we want to help, and how can we help?
That is such like, because I wish it was an easy question, because talking to my mom, I have realized that like children and teenagers, we don't make it easy for okay, Auntie T, what do you want me to call you for the
It's okay. Call us the older generation. It's fine. It's fine. Everybody to each his own. It's fine. We'll take it. I'll take it. I'll cringe, but I'll take it.
Okay.
As the older generation, it's fine. I promise you. It's fine.
Like, I do understand that we don't make it easy, because sometimes we don't know, and that's the honest truth. Like, we're the generation that we act like we know, but we don't know a lot of things. Like, sometimes I find myself wishing like, oh, my mom should just come and hug me. I'm just feeling, but I would be moody, and I'll be like, how do you want her to know that right now you need to talk? If you're being moody or you're being this, so it's actually meeting halfway. And that is a lot for me personally, to meet people halfway and be like, okay, this is when I need help. So I genuinely feel like from young, I feel like we should train our kids in like watching it. Train our kids into speaking out, Mom, I need help. Because I feel like growing up, we wasn't like really, it's like, oh, get up, you got this, you know. It's like, Mom, I need help. Dad, I need help. Auntie, I need help. I need to talk about this. This is when I've had enough. I feel like I personally never really learned how to ask for help. I'm being the person I am as well, like always want to face things head on and just deal with it, and just, so I feel like that is our generation, to ask help. However, what you can do, I feel, is to always ask. Because I do find that when my mom continuously asks, and I'll be like, she really wants to know. Let me just, this is what happened, and like then I'll be more vocal. And I do find that when she comes to me and confides in me, like, she does it with style though, because she probably knows that, oh, if Ife has something on her chest and she wants to say something, but then she'll be like, oh, Ife, do you know my day went like this? And then it gets the conversation going, and I'll be like, Mom, do you know what? I didn't have the best day either, because, you know, this happened and this happened. And it's like, because I know she came to me, because if I feel like, oh, you're just on like, I can't, it's just going one way communication, and like,
you keep coming to me, you're right? Okay.
Like, yeah, and like even now I get even to a point where sometimes I do complain to my mom, and I'm like, Mom, it's not like you can solve the issue, but this is just how I'm feeling, and I just don't like to feel this way, and I'm this. And she just give me a hug, or she would like just be like, it's okay, or like make me laugh. So I have come to understand that my mom is so useful, and they're not just there to just send us to school and this and that, but like they're actually there to comfort us as well. So I felt like you need to meet halfway.
We should come and ask halfway. Well, it helps if you tell us, but we also should come and ask. And we're not, you don't just want to get over yourself kind of thing.
So I'm being honest. Me personally.
No, talk to me.
I'm being honest, because I feel like it's not like always like, oh, my mom can't solve it, she doesn't understand, or she doesn't know. But I actually told my mom that we were just joking, and I don't know, I said something, and she was like, you don't listen, you teenagers, you don't listen. I said, Mum, at your age, you do listen. And she goes, for the first time I think I've ever heard her be honest, and she was like, actually, to be honest, I didn't listen. I said, wow, like, you're really being honest and you're saying you did not listen, because it's always like me. When I was your age, I used to clean from upstairs to downstairs. I never did any, like, you know, it was always like, oh, our parents were so top, and they were never in trouble and everything. But like, she was just like, do you know what? I actually didn't listen either. So it was like, oh, okay. So I felt like that was a bit like a different experience. So I do feel like being honest with your kids as well. Like, then they'll be like, oh, I've been through this, you know, when I was younger, I had all these bad pressure around me, and this is how I dealt with it. Then we actually realize that we have a lot in common with our parents. Like, that's what I would say. Like, from someone who never used to speak to my parents, and now I do, like, everything, I want to tell them everything now, because I feel like I genuinely would say my parents are that cool parent now, like, but they never were before, but they are now. They are now, but the truth was that I was just not being open.
All right. So does that mean that when we're vulnerable to our children, it actually opens up more communication than trying to show that we're perfect?
Yeah, because I found out that as you grow up, you realize you think your parents are superheroes. Like, you just think they're superwoman and superman. Like, that's how I grew up, thinking my parents were like heroes. Then as you grow up, you see flaws. It's very, very normal. It's human. Like, your parents sometimes don't know what to do, or sometimes you find out they just human. So when you now see someone who was a hero and was someone, you know, you thought you had all the answers, exactly, and then you're now starting to realize they don't. It's so easy to like just shift away from that and be like, okay, I don't really want to talk to this person because they don't seem like, do you know what I mean? So I felt like that. So until my mom was now being honest with me and being like, you know, this is how I used to act when I was younger, and this is what I did when I was your age, or this is this, and I'll be like, that's not different from what I did to you yesterday or the day before. She'd be like, that's not different. I used to do it to my parents, you two are doing it to me. Your children will do it to you too. Like,
I heard that again. So we can afford, because I remember talking to a mom about this. I mean, the 2 months I've had on Mom's Word, and we were talking about being vulnerable. Yes, Sister Fune, absolutely right. We can be vulnerable with our children. We can dare to actually tell them that we're not perfect. And I know I was asking, I said, does that mean that you young people are going to either take us for granted, or is it going to lead to some measure of disrespect? But you're saying that's not what happens.
I know my mom does it very stylishly and very appropriately. So what she would tell my big brother will not be the same as what she would tell me. So she knows us individually to know, like, oh, who's going to take this in the wrong way? Like, because you can tell a child a lesson and they will take that lesson as something else. So she knows us individually to know that, okay, this is a story I can share with Ife. This is a story I can share with the elder brother. This is a story I can share with the younger brother. Like, she would do it appropriately to our age, to our mentality, to how she knows us. So I have noticed that my mom and my dad, when they are telling us lessons, they will do it appropriately to each individual.
So you need to know each child.
Your children, basically.
You can't do one. It's not a one.
It's not a one-sided thing.
It's not one. Children, sit down. Let me tell you about my life.
No, it's not like that. Sometimes they'll be like, I want to talk to your brother. And you stay, you go, like, do you know what I mean? So it'll be like, and like what my big brother is going through is not the same as what I'm going through. Like, you can't just say the same. Like, you can't be talking about marriage and everybody sit down to talk about marriage when half of the children are not ready for marriage. Do you know what I mean? So it has to be appropriate.
Appropriate to each child. That's good. So let me ask you this question. If you were like you do actually have the opportunity to even talk to your contemporaries, because I know there's some of your contemporaries on the live now, what is something that you would love to share with them? I mean, having spoken about, you know, the kind of challenges you have, the kind of relationships you have with the older generation, what is one thing you would love to tell your peers?
Me personally, from what I've been going through, I've been so focused on the future. too focused to the point that it would give me so much anxiety, and I'll be like, if I relax, because COVID has just made everyone think like, oh my gosh, what's going to happen then? How am I going to find a job? How am I going to do this? What I'm going to say is that my mom personally has been my rock in this moment, where I've been so focused that I have not been paying attention to the now. So from this lesson, what I am going to say is that obviously don't be too focused on the future, and honestly put it in God's hand, because you don't, like, who knew COVID was coming? We all had plans. We all had plans. Who knew COVID was coming? Like, if you put your plans to God, he will execute them perfectly for you. And like, you know, like, I was like, oh, I know the scripture and I know that, but I was still worrying until my mom started to break it down for me. And it took time. It took days and days of her speaking to me and like talking to me and breaking it down. If my mom wasn't here to break it down to me, I don't know what I would have done. I would have been full of anxiety, full of just scared and just making irrational decisions because I'm scared. So have someone who is your rock. I would not force people to say, oh, my mom has to be my rock, he has to be my dad. I'm not going to force you to say it has to be your parent, because I do understand some people's situations are different. Whether it be your guardian, whether it be your auntie, you need to have someone who is older than you, more experienced than you, to help you. And I like literally will give anybody that, because yes, we have our friends to talk to, but we are all struggling and laughing at our pain together. It's not the same as when someone who has literally been through it. And I know you feel like my mom does not have a clue. They do. Like, I've learned so much from my mom that I never knew that she knew about, or
shout out to mom. Thank you.
And literally my dad as well. Like, I thought my mom knew nothing about social media, and she was like, I was very impressed with her, because I was like, I didn't know you knew social media. She's like, yeah, I watch my African Magic on my social media. And I was like, okay. So like, I feel like we need to learn from our parents, and we need to appreciate the time we have with them as well, because by the time you know it, we're moving out, we'll only come Christmas, we only talk to them a few days. Like, we need to appreciate. And I know this is someone who fights and argues a lot. So I'm very argumentative. So I'm not saying I don't fight and I'm not stubborn and I'm perfect. No, I am not. However, I do understand and value my relationship with my mom. And I never always had a good relationship, but I've strived. We both come together to say, I want a good relationship with my daughter, so that me too, when I have my kids, I will have good relationships. So I tell you guys so much, I can't stress it enough. Have, even if it's one person that you can go to be your rock, I would definitely say that is something I would advise you to do. 100%.
That's amazing. I mean, all the moms on here are like, well said. well said. Now, that's for your contemporaries. You've been through quite a significant part of your teenage years. You are now an older teen. I mean, you're in uni and all that. Looking back at your younger teen years, what is something that you would say to the younger ones as they come up? What would you say is one thing that you learned and you think, if I knew then what I know now, and you would love them to take that as they're growing up into their later teens and then going on into their young adulthood?
Have fun. I was so focused on like, oh, I want to be older, I want to be able to do this, I want to be able to do that, that I don't even know what I was doing at 13. I was just busy like always acting older or always wanting to be older. I feel like I wish I had so much more fun, because all this uni work, I wish I could just go back and so, I'm joking. I'm just saying, like, honestly, enjoy the journey now, because you're gonna look back and be like, what was I doing at 13? What was I doing at 14? I was just worrying about the future. I was just worrying about, oh, when I go to uni, this is what I'm gonna be on, or this is what I'm gonna be doing, or like that. I wasn't thinking about now.
Yes.
And education, you're on GCSE, you're doing everything, they're all telling you, oh, your future, if you don't do well, your future. But I feel like you need to take a step back, because that's all those years are about. GCSE, A level, about your future, is about every day going to school, is about, I need to get my future right. It's so easy to just stop thinking about, how am I enjoying myself now? How am I making the most of now? How am I collecting the knowledge? How am I enjoying now? Because it's so easy to like, oh, everyday school, everyday future, because that's all they talk about. Your GCSE, you will need this in the future. Like, that's all they talk about. That's all I remember hearing. But I wish I could just have had more fun with the people, like really deep to the lessons I was learning, because I felt like I would go through things and once I'm out, I'm like, oh, never think about it again. Like I would like probably have bad friend experiences. I would never think about the bad friend experiences again. And if you don't learn from those things, you're gonna fall back into them, and like you'll be like, what was the lesson for? What was that experience for? So I feel like you need to be very aware of your surroundings and all the lessons you have, and don't let anybody tell you that you're dumb, you're stupid, or you're too young. Don't let them tell you those things, because those were the things that I was hearing a lot that made me want to feel like, no, I'm not too young. I'm old. I'm older. I'm a teenager and all of that. Don't let them push you down in a negative way, because you are very, very capable. So I thought I was proving too much to people that I'm older. I got this. I'm very mature. Like I can do these things. But no, because people were drilling me that you're too young to do this. You're too young to talk, or you're too young to go on stage. You're too young to do these things. If you have a passion, strive for it and do it now. Do it now, not the future that everybody's telling you about. Do it now.
Preach it. I felt I had to say that. Honestly, it is true, because I think during those years, there's a lot of focus of getting through school, you know, like Stephanie said, don't accept any negative words on your life. And I recall that one of my former guests, I think he was, quite a few of them actually talked about it, really, about your identity during those years, that you've got to know who you are.
Honestly,
that's very, very important.
It is very important. Because if you don't, you're going to be spending these years where you're trying to be doing other things, learning who you are. And because you're older, you're more free, it's so easy to go astray if you do not know who you are. People will tell you who you are if you don't know who you are. And it will just be more pressure than all the pressure that's already there, I'm telling you. And that's what those teenagers are for. That is what your younger years are for, to learn the lessons, because the lessons tell you who you are. Because sometimes you're like, oh, if this happens to me, this is how I react. Then it happens and you react so differently from what you expected. But if you're not marinating, or you're not understanding or pausing to say, this is what just happened and this is what I can learn from it, you're going to forget about it and you get older and you go through the same thing and you don't know who you are. Honestly, it's so true.
But where do you find out who you, where does a young person go for identity? I mean, where would you say we would go to find ourselves?
I have to be honest, God, because I don't know how else to say. I'm going to tell you my truth, because when I was younger, I feel like I was learning my identity from very, very young, from a lot of other people, because of the type of character I am. But I feel like, God, I can't, because I did search in other places to find my identity, and it was not working out for me until I really started focusing on God. And I was like, okay, I kind of get myself now. He knows you more than you know yourself, and he will tell you who you are.
So they got to. So that is where your faith really plays into your life as a young person. So you've talked to your contemporaries. You've told us what you would tell the younger generation. What are you going to tell us? Older generations, the moms, the aunties, the counselors. What would you like us to know? What would be something you like us to know?
50-50. I can't stress that enough. If my mom was not doing 50-50, even sometimes my mom was doing 60 and I was doing 40, because I feel like, but you need to know the type of person, because me, I'm someone you need to ask and ask and ask. Are you okay? You're okay? Before I tell you. But my brother, you might ask him one time and he'd be like, yeah, this is what's going on. Or like, I feel like you do need to know the person you are with. That's why I feel like some certain aunties or people who are not really aunties, they would just ask life questions, and it's like, I can't be honest with you because you don't even know me. So I feel like you need to know someone and have a personal relationship, because it's all about individuality, because all of this is general until you know that person, and then you can start applying it to that person. Like I said, my mom, she does it differently. My dad, he does it differently for all of us. So you need to know the young person you're talking to. So I would say 50-50. If you really, really want to be a help, you need to go 50-50. Are you checking up on that person? Like if you're an auntie or if you're an uncle, are you saying like, how's life? Or, how can I bless you? Or this is a good word for you? Or this is this. I feel like I do find those helpful for me. Right. And I'll be like, oh, this person actually really cares about me. And then the moment you come and ask me, are you okay? I'm actually going to be honest with you, because I'll be like, this auntie has checked up on me, and this auntie, I know she has been a great help in my life, or I know that this person has been a great help. So if they're asking me, they're being genuine. And it's not like, oh, how are you? Like, it's not a very casual, how are you? It's like, how are you? Like, are you actually okay? Because this is a person that's invested and taken time to check on you, or like has helped you in the past or something like that. So we're very, very sharp in noticing who actually cares and who doesn't care.
Yes. You know, that reminds me of, I think it was when Ira came and he talked about the fact that it's not enough for you to come and just give advice. You can't give advice if it's not on a foundation of relationship. So me just coming to you and just dishing out advice or telling you this and that is not enough. And that's what you're saying. There has to be some basis, some kind of relationship.
100%.
Even if even if it's a parent.
Yes, and it's the entitlement of thinking I'm your parent, I know you. No, you actually need to get to know me, because you and even us, we might not know ourselves 100%, but we know what we're feeling. You might even, like, sometimes my mom, who knows me inside and out, sometimes even at that, she needs to ask questions because she doesn't know how I'm feeling, you know, like. So if my mom, who knows me very well and we have a relationship, sometimes needs to ask a lot of questions because she doesn't know. Imagine someone who does not have a relationship at all. Like, its parents cannot feel entitled to say, like, because you're my child, I birthed you, I know you.
Oh.
I'm so sorry. Like, it's just the honest
truth. Don't be sorry. Please don't be sorry. This is our concept. Don't ever be sorry. We want to, you see, this is a learning platform for us. This is for us to listen. And so we listen, as long as you're not insulting us, you're talking to us. And that is what I want to hear. So talk to us.
Yeah, like, I feel like it's like a lot of because me, I grew up in an African household, so I do know how African households like operate, and I know that a lot of parents are entitled to, like, oh, you are meant to tell me this because you're my child, I gave birth to you, so if something's going on, you have to tell me. But it's like, we don't see it like that, because we're like, but you don't even, you just do like the parent stuff and that's it. You don't really, you know, you don't push to know me as a person, or like they force you to be someone who you're not, or like they force you to be like. So I have witnessed a lot of situations where it's like this person is like very quiet or very, but that doesn't run in an African home. You have to be loud, or you have to be this to you. You're doing smear. You're acting like you're not bright enough, or you're not smart. If you're not quick, or you're not sharp, or you're like, or if you're too quiet. But it's like this, that's the person's persona, that's the person's character. You cannot force the person to. And if you're treating me like that, I don't want to talk to you. Like, yes, you are my mom, yes, you're my dad, but I'm only gonna tell you the necessary things. All the extra stuff, I'm keeping it to myself.
Wow.
How was school? School was fine. Are you hungry? Yes, mom. That's it. Yes, mom. No, dad. That's all I'm saying. Because if I'm not comfortable talking to you, it's going to be very, very hard to communicate.
To tell you the deeper things and the more relevant things that you would have loved to share. I can see, I mean, my friend talking about the fact that, you know, some people feel, like you said, is that because we're older, that gives you a right to give advice, but they don't have that relationship to be able to do that. Do you think, I mean, for somebody who's kind of like has an experience of two different cultures, do you think that is something coming from culture, or is that just a form of basic respect for the other person? Basic understanding. Let me use that word, understanding.
Wait, sorry, can you say that question again?
I said, for somebody, you have the privilege of having lived with two cultures. You know, you've lived with the Western culture, been born and lived quite a bit of your life in the UK, and you've also lived in Africa, and you've been brought up in an African household. Do you think that the fact that we want that relationship, do you think that's a cultural thing, or do you think that's just a basic thing of life?
That parents want a relationship with their kids.
No, that you guys want to be heard.
Oh, that we want to be. Ooh.
Do you think
that's hard, because I feel like every young person, no matter where we are from, I feel like we all want to be heard. I feel like as the generation we are in,
Yes.
We cannot go on social media, air everything we want to air out and not be able to talk in real life. Like, it's not something I feel everybody, and that's in Nigeria, that's in that's everywhere in Africa, that's in the UK, everywhere. I feel like we all want to be heard.
It's not like before anymore, is it? It's not where children are seen and not heard anymore. That used to be how the proverb used to be in those days, that children. Okay, I think the first connection has gone off a little bit. I'm just going to wait. But I mean, I'm sure. Are you back?
I'm back.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Right. So it does it. So it's not. I would suspect that in your generation, it's not a cultural thing. It's young people are not
wouldn't pin
speaking
it.
French all over the world anymore.
Yeah. I wouldn't say it's a cultural thing. I wouldn't keep it that small. I think everybody, and I think everybody, no matter how old you are, you want to be heard. However, if I could say, the older generation have been accustomed to knowing when to keep quiet because of how they were raised, or like knowing when to not talk, or like, but I think that inside everybody, we all want to be heard, and that's just a basic human like thing. Everyone wants to be listened to.
Yes. And especially young people, especially if you feel that you're not being given an opportunity to express yourself, then you want somebody to listen to you and not just tell you what you're supposed to do, but to actually understand where you're coming from. Okay, so that's interesting. All right, as we're going to gradually round up, what is one thing that you would, I mean, as a person, having gone through all these things, and I mean, we've talked about the older generation, we've talked about the younger generation, we've talked about your contemporaries. I mean, there are different kinds of stages in life. There's so many parts. One thing I would like to ask is, what part does your faith play in your life as a young person?
My faith is everything, because I feel like being a young person is so hard. And like, I've heard people say to me or to other people, like, you are young, what do you know about heartbreak? What do you know about love? What do you know about this? What do you know about this? And you'll be so surprised that life issues do not discriminate. They will come at whoever, whenever. Like, so I feel like for me, my faith is everything, because it's the thing that's holding me together, honestly, because like I said, I searched everywhere else. And this is someone who grew up in a church from young. Like, all I know has been church. But even at that, I wasn't like, oh, I was searching other places, like, oh, like, all these people, they don't know God, they seem fine. Let me go check out what they're doing and how they're doing it. They're not doing it. That's the honest truth. No one is holding on. They are not. So I said, so I came back to church, and because you grow up in the church, that does not equal you, oh, I know God, or like spiritual and all of that and everything.
Yeah.
You need to personally have a relationship with God. So I started to run after him. He was running after me. And when I tell you, I have a relationship with God now that holds me together.
Right.
And I don't feel guilty. I don't feel all these things that a lot of people, I'm escaping. He's helping me escape all of these feelings and emotions and depression and this that a lot of us are feeling right now. My faith holds my academics together. Even when I'm not getting up to go to my lectures, God still makes a way for me. And I'm just like, even when I'm tired and I don't want to do anything, somehow I'm still passing the module. Somehow I'm still, and it's just like, it's like you knowing that God loves you no matter what. And he's always going to be there to pick you up, and like not having all of this like tension on you, and he lifts it off so much. But also knowing that, yes, I do know God, but I am still aware as to what happens to other people in my generation, or what happens to people in general. So it's not like, oh, I know God and I'm blind to everything else. No, it's being honest and being realistic. And like, I feel like sometimes if you don't have anyone to talk to, because I don't want to be like, so like, oh, talk to your mom or talk to your dad. Some people, the reality of that is that they don't have a mom or a dad, or they don't have a guardian, or they don't really have someone they feel like they can speak to. God is always going to be there.
Man, yeah.
And I know it seems like, oh, I'm just going to have to talk to the air. Like, hi, God. Like, no, like, honestly, once you start building a relationship with God, no matter, nothing will satisfy you. nothing will satisfy you. You will search and you search. And even like me, I'll even tell people like search, go and search. Go and look, and I guarantee you. Because you don't want to be forced to be like, oh, I'm a Christian, like all my parents to go to church, so me to have to go to church. Because that didn't work for me, and I'm being honest. I'm being honest. I searched other places. I was like, what are these people doing? And I realized that they were not doing anything because it wasn't working for them. So
you mean in the other places that you looked at, or in the church? In the other places you looked?
No, in the other places I looked at. Like I went to all my other friends, they were like, or like other people, they were just like, oh, like, don't really believe in God. I was like, it wasn't like, because I was like, don't believe in God. Does he exist? I don't know. There were so many questions in my heart because I just went to church and I just went with it. But I didn't really know if I believed. So I had to search, and I had to search. And me searching, I feel like, is what made me come to God and be like, I believe you. But if I just stayed and gone with it, I would have just been there and not really believing in my heart. And that's not what Christianity is. And that's not what having a personal relationship with Jesus is. It's not. So I always tell people that if you want to search, and I'll guarantee you will not find anything that satisfies you.
Right.
So my faith goes everywhere.
It goes everywhere. So, I mean, I'm just going to ask you this final question. So would you say that, because I think this is something else about, you know, for us Christian parents, should we allow our kids to search? It's a very difficult one. Ow!
Okay, let me just put, I actually didn't want to say this, but I'm going to say I'm a pastor's daughter. So for me to have searched, honestly, yes, you're meant to like grow your kids in the way of the Lord. And my dad, what he did, and he made sure he did, was that wherever we go, there is a church that we could go to. So he said, you don't have to, you just as long as you were going to church, as long as you're rooted in the church, because even though my heart was saying something else and saying like, oh, this church thing, I don't even know about it, I was hearing the word of God. I was being filled with the word of God. So yes, like, you should allow your kids to be able to search. And the truth of the matter is that they're going to search. Once you get out of church, once you step outside physically of church, you're already searching. Once there is no, you're already searching. By the time you meet this friend, he's already doing another thing. By the time you do this, he's already doing another. You're already searching, and you're already seeing a whole new environment from church.
Even on social media, I mean.
Even on social media. You're all searching. There was someone who is going to talk about, I don't know, the other spiritual things that they do or whatever. Like, there will be someone saying something, and someone saying I'm an atheist, or someone saying this, or someone saying that. You will be seeing things. So I feel like your parents can hold you tight and not want to let you go. But the honest truth is that there's really nothing you can do to stop people seeing other religions or seeing other points of views or seeing other expressions. In this day and age, there's just no way you can stop your kids from it. However, I would say that if you're really worried and truly honestly worried, like my dad did, he said, no matter where you're going to church every Sunday. You're going to church. I'm keeping you near a church so that when you want to run back, there is a place for you to run back to. Do you know what I mean? So yes, we grew up in the way of the Lord, but you have to come to your own personal relationship on your own.
Yes.
You have to do that on your own.
Yes, I mean, that is sound, because I know that is something that kind of a lot of parents kind of, you're like, hey, you know, you don't want your child to fall into, you know, those kind of hands or anything, but you're absolutely right. You can't stop a child from searching, but you can put in a couple of boundaries and try and keep them in a way where there's still, you know, that element of boundaries for them, but allow the young people to find God for themselves.
You don't want to create church as a bondage for a child. You like you did something. Oh, I know some people will be like, oh, Shelby, you don't want to do this. You go to church on Sunday. Like, why is it a punishment? Why is it a punishment? I don't understand. Like, it's like even you know your child doesn't want to go to church, so when you want to annoy your child, you bring them and drag them to church. Like, that is not what a representation of a church should be for a child at all.
It actually makes you guys not like church.
Yes, 100%.
Yes. All right.
And once we grow up, like I already know a couple of friends from church, like from a church, where they're deciding and saying, you know, actually, I'm going to a different church, or I'm going out of church because church has not been what church should be to them.
So we've got to be able to maintain that balance and make sure that we're loving as we share our faith with them, as we encourage them in the faith. We make sure that it's not like bondage, like you said, or punishment. It should be like, this works for us. This is an introduction, but find God for yourself and be able to kind of like somebody said, push the horse to the stream, but you can't force it to
Yeah,
drink.
can't force it to drink.
I mean, amazing. I wish you could go on and on, but I'm always very careful. I try to make sure that we keep to time and to, I mean, so many of my friends and everyone is joining. I saw JT, I've seen Diola. Thanks so much for, coming. And Ife, this has been amazing. I mean,
I really
all
enjoyed
you guys that I've heard, the 7 of you that I've had so far, I mean, I've got plans. I know I've got to bring all you guys because you've got so much to tell us, so much to offer us, the older generation. Oh, wish I didn't have to say that. But it's amazing. And I want to always say that I love you guys. We parents,
We
we
love you
love
too.
you, and I'm always proud when you guys come and you talk. For me, there are no sacred things, or you can't say that. As long as you're not blaspheming, you're not insulting, or you're not telling me I don't look good, you can say whatever you want. And I know that a lot of people are benefiting from what you're doing. You'll be surprised. Ife, thank you, thank you,
Thank you
thank
so
you
much,
so,
Auntie,
so
for
much.
giving me this
This has been
opportunity.
fun. And I've learned so much. And I want you to say thank you to Mom. Tell her that she's got an open invitation to come on Mom's Word very soon. But I want to hear her own side as well. Thank you so much. Thank you for
Thank you
everything you
so much.
taught us and all that. Thank you for everyone that has come on. I'm sure we had a lovely time. I'm sure we've learned so much from another amazing young person. And I want you guys to know, young people, we are actually rooting for you guys. We are rooting for you guys. They used to call you Generation X, going nowhere fast. For me, I believe that you guys are the best since sliced bread. You are just awesome people. And I look forward to the great things that you're all going to be doing. So Ife, stay young, stay strong. God bless you. Thank you so much for
Thank
your
you so much,
time.
Auntie.
And I mean, all the best. Thank you, everyone that has joined us this evening. I'm sure, I mean, you agree with me that, I mean, these people are just amazing. I can't say much more. So again, 2 weeks from now, I'll be bringing on another awesome young person on Young and Strong, and we'll be listening to it. And someday I'm going to have like a panel of them, and we're just going to hear some more from my young people. Thank you, everyone. Have a good evening. Stay safe, and God bless you all. Good night. Thanks, everyone, and goodbye. Bye-bye.